Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the November 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're happy to have each of you with us tonight. At this time, our clerk will give us a roll call.
Commissioner Traeger.
Here.
Commissioner Strickland.
Here.
Commissioner May. Here. Commissioner Cantu.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here.
Okay, we'll now move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes of the October 5th, 2022 City Commission meeting.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. This time, we will have our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, we're moving item 8A, the ECHO grant application, and we're moving that to the administrative items. Item 8N, we remove the 1,000 Bike Week sponsorship funds to Precise Professional Firefighters. We're removing item 9D, the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division Smoking Lounges, Land Development Code LDC text amendment to development. We're removing item 10A, the Development and Administrative Service Planning Division Smoking Lounges City Code Amendment, and addendum item 10B, City Manager's Office Hurricane Ian Community Recovery Relief Grants will be added to the agenda. Just want to, for the record, the two items we're removing, 9D and 10A, relative to smoking lounges, are removed so we can clarify some information and bring it back at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the agenda with the said changes.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, we'll now move on to item 6, which is our presentation. Item 6A is the presentation recommendations to help individuals impacted by Hurricane Ian. Derek C. Fiecher, City Manager, to report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners. We do have here Deputy City Manager Driscoll and Director of Redevelopment, Ken Thomas, is here. 3 individuals I assigned to work on these items at the direction of the commission at our last meeting. You requested that we bring back information that will be beneficial to provide relief for those residents and business owners in our community that were needed to help some assistance recovering from Hurricane Ian. As you all know, many of you were out. So staff did some reviews. So we've prepared a resolution that can be brought forward in reference to providing assistance to not only our residents, but as I stated, the local business owners. So we've come up with 3 different areas to provide about $2.5 million worth of funds to utilize from our ARPA. That will still leave us funds available for us to talk about. We're planning on having a meeting in the first part of December so we can decide how we're going to spend the additional funds for the community that we've received from the federal government. But the purpose of this request is to provide for the recovery and relief of our residents and small businesses negatively impacted by Hurricane Ian. The City of Daytona Beach has received funds from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan for the Coronavirus Local Recovery Fund Program. Common grant requirements and conditions. The grants are available only to city residents and city businesses. Funds are provided for recovery of costs and losses associated with Hurricane Ian. The grant programs are intended to provide for rapid grant award and disbursement of funding. As a condition of receiving a grant, all applicants shall be required to submit proof that they have filed for recovery from their insurance carrier, if insured, in or FEMA. We do understand that some people may be denied, but we still need to have that paperwork because these are the taxpayers' funds. Where practical, grant funds will be used solely to reimburse those costs that are not reimbursed by insurance, including deductibles. Residential grant programs, both of the residential grant programs have the following conditions that will be able to be used, and Mr. Thomas and Mr. Driscoll are here for some more questions if you may have. They provide for funding to address such as housing-related costs and losses as payment of property insurance deductibles, flood and mold remediation costs for household shelter costs incurred by displaced households, including relocation expenses, and other housing-related costs such as mortgage payments, rents, and deposits. They require that in order to be eligible, an applicant must be a city resident, be a qualifying household, and submit former insurance or FEMA claim in relation to the hurricane. They provide that unless more specific documentation such as actual receipts is accepted in the city's discretion, the types and amounts of costs and losses recoverable shall be limited to those types and amounts claimed with the insurance carrier or FEMA. They provide for a total amount of assistance shall not exceed $9,000 per household. For costs incurred post-Hurricane Ian, such as mortgage payments and rent to be eligible, they must be incurred no later than when Ian started. We have the Hurricane Ian Residential Recovery Assistance Grant. Qualifying households means an individual or family whose income does not exceed the moderate income. Recipients of the SHIP Housing Rehabilitation Grant their eligibilities and requirements are in the document. We have a SHIP Rehabilitation Grant Program of $500,000 for hurricane assistance as well. And we have the Hurricane Ian Small Business Recovery Assistance Grant. Expanding the use of these funds for Small Business Assistance Grant provides financial assistance to city small businesses that have less than 50 employees. Funds can be used to address business-related costs and losses, including repair costs, lost revenues, insurance deductibles, and spoliation of food or personal property. In order to be eligible, an applicant must provide a current business tax receipt issued by the City of Daytona Beach and must have a documented costs or losses to the applicant's Daytona Beach business location in association with the hurricane. The total amount of assistance shall not exceed $3,000 or the amount of the insurance deductible. We do have funds available that will be transferred into our general fund of $2 million and then our SHIP $500,000. So we're looking to allocate $2.5 million for this fund. And hopefully, I'm not out of line. We have been trying to work with Dr. McGullough at Allen to be a site for individuals to be able to come and apply, and also the Peabody location on the beach side. So we will have two locations. We will be putting a package together that says all of the requirements. People will be able to come in at those two locations all day with staff to apply for this. Technology will be available so we can, if we need to help individuals get online, because some people may not have that access, but also the ability to come in. It'll be on a first come, first served basis with these funds. But if Ken and Drew want to come up and share any more information, we think this is a good start for us, and hopefully it will be beneficial to the residents and small businesses that utilize these funds to help our community out. And if you all agree for this as a consensus, it is on the agenda to be voted on later in the meeting. But we think we've done the work. Patricia, Drew, and Ken really worked on this to make sure that things are available. So if you have any more additional comments or questions.
Does anyone? I'll
I didn't know
refer to you
if-
all first.
I didn't know if Drew was going to say something. Are you waiting for us to ask you something?
He's waiting to ask.
Oh, okay.
You all
Here
here?
for your pleasure.
All right, so just in layman's term, because the manager read a whole lot of stuff. These are grant funds. Yes. Which means it's not a loan.
Yes.
I heard you say that businesses can receive up to $3,000.
Correct.
Homeowners can receive up to $9,000
For a period of 6 months, yes, ma'am.
for a period of 6 months. And would you name again some of the instances on how these funds can be utilized when they apply?
Drew Driscoll, Deputy City Manager and Fire Chief. Just also want to add in Ben Gross to the team that helped formulate
Legal.
this. It's a very challenging process. But Ken understanding the needs of the community and us witnessing the tragedy that everyone experienced, we needed to find a broad range of assistance to help everyone. We couldn't think of all the different needs out there. So the broad range includes things such as mortgage assistance, rental assistance, as we heard.
Use the
spoliation
mic
of
a little
food.
bit more.
I'm sorry. Mortgage assistance, rental assistance, spoliation of food, home repairs, mold and flood damage remediation, a whole litany to make sure that we're touching everyone that needs this little bit of assistance we could offer following the tragedy.
I heard deductibles as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Let me just say that I am so proud of us because we didn't know what to do. This devastation has hit this entire county. And as we vacillated over what to do, you know, it takes all of our minds to come together, because the suggestion I said was the water bill, because that's the only thing we've ever relieved. But we need help more than a water bill. You know, I just paid my water bill. It was only $68. What's $68 going to do for somebody whose life is out on the curb? And so I commend staff for taking the time to do their due diligence. And I mean, $3,000, we got some business owners that are suffering. All of their supplies are gone. We've got homeowners. I've just like you all, we've driven around and we've seen bedrooms and living rooms and, you know, clothing and what have you out on the curb. I've never experienced this. You know, I had Lake Magnolia. That's what I was calling my yard. Takes 4 steps to get into my house. It made it to my 2nd step. 2 more steps and it would have been in my house. And I'd have been sitting out there. Oh, no, I wouldn't have been sitting up here. But it just takes the compassion of this commission. And I commend you on that, because we really have never done anything like this before. And we may not be able to do it again. I thank God for these federal funds that we can use. So don't y'all get too happy now. But the fact that we can do this today, I think speaks volumes for this commission, that we're willing to make this sort of a sacrifice and juggle funds in some other area so that we can help our citizenry.
Well said. Anyone else?
I have a couple questions. So with the FEMA process, you can go in once, you get denied. Then they have an appeals process. Where in that continuum should the person be when they start applying? Where should we be in that continuum when the person is applying? Should they have applied, been denied, appealed, be denied before they come to you? That's number one. Number two, what if they don't have all their documents together? How much time do you give them in that? And number three, from the time that you say yes, when can they expect the funds?
Well, Ken Thomas, redevelopment, try to answer some of your questions there. We want you to apply for FEMA. Just make the application. We're not waiting for you to be denied. So once you apply for FEMA and we can document that you apply for FEMA, you can make application with us. If you have insurance, we want you to apply for insurance. If the deductible is too much, we'll pay the deductible. Some of the other things is you can certainly go ahead and make the application. If you don't have all the information, we try to verify income, and we try to verify that you're certainly a City of Daytona Beach resident or business owner. So some of the documents are not verifiable, may be lost. So we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that it's not a heavy load to get this information. If we have to go places and get the information, we will.
And that's one of the reasons when we work with Alan Chappell and Pastor McGull, we're going to have IT to take computers, copiers, everything with us. So if we have to sit there and help somebody to say they apply for it and we see them apply for it, that will help us as well. And the turnaround is going to be relatively quick because we're going to transfer the funds time you all approve it.
And is it possible to achieve both goals? Could people get both FEMA and the city funds at the same time? Is that possible?
Well, it's probably going to be a delay in getting the FEMA funds. So if we can get the documentation now, we're going to go ahead and award you the grant from the city. We're not going to wait, as I said, for FEMA to approve you. We know that's a long process. And if you have insurance too as well, insurance may take a while to get it processed. So we're not waiting for insurance. As long as you can document you live in Daytona Beach and you meet our income guidelines, we're going to go ahead and award you the grant.
I have another question to piggyback on what Commissioner May had asked. If this passes this evening, how soon are we planning on having those 2 sites readily available for applications?
We're looking at next week. Or they looking at me like I was told them to have it next week. We'll be working with Pastor McGullough and the Peabody. We control. Our goal is to get the applications and get through the process with our legal department on what's required, because we don't want to be audited. And next thing you know, we have to pay funds back. But we will make sure the notification is given out to all the HOAs, all of the community groups. We've got great partnerships. So it won't be a thing that if you have a internet and you see it on social media and it comes tomorrow, we're not going to do that, because some people may not have social media. So we're going to give them a couple of days to make sure it's notified through all of our local channels of press, social media, and even putting stuff in our community centers and giving to our partners.
And do we anticipate that after the application is complete, perhaps that within 2 weeks they could have funding?
We're hoping, hoping faster than that.
Okay.
Because once you all approve it and we verify, you've given us authority to move forward.
Move forward.
Any other questions? Okay, let me ask a few questions, and I first of all want to commend staff for the speed at which you put this together, because like Commissioner Reed, I had some other ideas, and I have some concerns. Certainly the money, I think is appropriate for us to find a way to use it for this, but I'm sure you all have already went through this. But Bob, my question is, we are naming a project for Hurricane Ian relief. And these funds are specifically for coronavirus recovery. No, and don't get me wrong, I had a way around this, but are you sure
I asked that question.
that we will not get into trouble and have to repay this money based on this? Yeah.
Right, we did look at that, and we approved the expenditure consistent with the COVID funding requirements. Drew, I'll let you.
No, hit your button, Bob.
Mike, in it talk.
Sorry, I'm not on, you're right. Yes, Mayor, we did look at that today and confirmed that it is consistent with the COVID fund expenditure requirements. Drew, I'm going to turn it over to you to explain that. I didn't look at the details, Mr. Gross did.
Yes, when the federal government, U.S. Treasury, dedicated those funds to the city of Daytona Beach, one of the 15 million, we claimed $10 million as revenue loss. Within
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I already know.
got it.
Go ahead, finish the answer for the public.
We're covered.
Okay, but is that it?
I just want to clarify, because there are those $10 million in revenue loss must be expended on government services traditionally provided by a government.
Excellent job, excellent job. Can't tell you all how good that is. Okay, and I want to say it, several things based on that, that speaks to your work, things that you've approved and things that you've believed in and things that you all have done. It was important that you all claim the $10 million for such a time as this. Because if you had not claimed the $10 million, then we would not have been able to claim, and then my question would have been correct, and we wouldn't have been able to use this money, because this money is not technically purposed for the storm. It's purposed for COVID. And we have a lot of issues with COVID that are ongoing, and I don't want to get that twisted, because it's a commitment and that's still beating us over the head in ways that we cannot describe. And we've tried to use that money judiciously, but I want y'all to understand something that this commission is to be commended for. We didn't do like a lot of other municipalities did and take the COVID money and patch holes with it. I was very adamant that we not do that. Because had we taken the money and patched holes and said, oh, we had this hole or the entire 10 million that we could have claimed, then it would have gone into the sea of abyss and it would not have gone to the people. And from my perspective, and I've said this all along and I still believe this, ARPA money is designed for the people who suffered and who suffer, okay? And I am so thankful that one, you all made that decision, and two, you all made the decision not to go around and say, we're going to fill a pothole or we're going to fill this, that, and the other. We used the money and have saved it essentially to use it for causes that impact the residents of Daytona Beach. So again, thank you, and I go home tonight and I'm going to say a prayer of gratitude to the Creator, because this is one of the finest moments that we've had as a commission, having the capacity to do this, because I know other municipalities and even at the county, they use it for other things that I kept complaining about, and you all did not do that. So commendations and good job. Yes, sir.
Couple of questions, actually three. So people that don't have insurance can apply for this. Can people apply for this that have insurance, the insurance won't cover their yard that's been destroyed, because the insurance won't cover that? Some people have pretty high bills they paid to clear their yard of down trees and stuff. And the other thing is that
Might not cover that.
it might not cover that.
Look into it.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. And churches, can churches get in on this?
They are a business. If you can document that you're a business and you lost.
You're under that, the employees?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And there is another program recently released regarding hurricane assistance for churches.
And nonprofits, yeah. So regarding the landscaping, so 2 weeks ago, we approved $100,000 from my CARES money, correct, to go to ward residents, $1,000 per person for landscaping. So the gap, is it possible to use that? So people can then combine, pardon me?
Personally, not in favor of that, but I was trying to figure a way to do that. We got to use this for people who are, but anyway.
Right, but I mean, I already have that money set aside for that, right? So can people apply for multiple things? They could apply for the 1,000 and then also this to help cover some of the costs? If it's going toward landscaping? I don't know.
They could. They're separate grants.
Okay, good, thank you.
I'd like to ask a question. Does your grant cover all of Daytona Beach?
You know what? I'm
Because
glad you
someone
brought
told me
that up.
tonight that they didn't think it covered them.
So it covers the 5 redevelopment areas,
That's
and
what we
yours
need to
would be a big portion of that. Mine are there, but yours are definitely eligible for it. That's number one. And then later on this evening, I want to see if we can broaden that a little bit even, because there's some areas that just fall short. But I think that they could really use the funds. So yeah.
Okay.
I just want to thank the staff members, Drew, Ken, Patricia, and Ben for the work they did. And y'all gave us 2 weeks, and they put their minds together to bring something. And we hope that next week we'll be able to advertise when we're going to be at Allen Chapel under Dr. McGullough in the Peabody.
Okay. Good job.
Okay. Yes. So we're going to move on to item number 7. And during this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the city commission on any item on the consent agenda. And just a reminder that item 8A has been moved to the end of the meeting for discussion. So anyone signing up for that will be speaking at the end. So our first speaker for the consent agenda is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is Frederick Brown.
Tisha, you tripped me up again. I was like, oh, I won't be till later. Hi, everybody. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. Okay, I'm going to speak about item 8J, which pertains to landscaping on medians. Now, this is such a perennial topic of mine. It's the contractor is going to be responsible for pruning, mowing, edging, application of pesticides, herbicides, what have you, irrigation, and mulch. Now, a median basically shouldn't need any of this, or little or none. A median, it's in the middle of the street. We shouldn't be having high-maintenance mini lawns in the middle of the street. That is what, in our permaculture design class, we used to call that a type 1 error. Like, if you planted 2 rows of highly flammable trees leading right to your front door, that would be a type 1 error. I think mini lawns in the middle of the street that require such high maintenance, high intensive maintenance, and so much money and so much resources, that is a kind of a type 1 error because there's a big opportunity cost there. Now, as with all my comments, I'm not here to shame any person or any department. All of us collectively have arrived at this place in society where we actually think it's cool to have mini lawns in the middle of the street. And we don't usually think about it very much, but when I think about it, I'm like, what are we doing? There's actually lots of median landscaping that we can do. I've looked it up. There's gorgeous median landscapes that require little or no irrigation beyond establishing the initial plants, little or no pruning, little or no mowing, little or no edging. We shouldn't be doing pesticides and herbicides for ornamental landscaping. We live in an aquatic and marine environment with a high water table. And in any case, we just shouldn't. And mulch on medians, we don't need that. It just floats away and gets in the street. There's so many alternatives. I would like to see fussy little high-maintenance median strips. I don't even know how much money we spend on these, but I would like to see them go the way of fashions such as the powdered wig or those goofy shoes that pilgrims used to wear. There's gorgeous median strips, and I will send pictures of them. I actually looked them up. They're very pretty. I think we should be doing xeriscape type stuff, things that look more representative of our native landscapes. So, yeah, whoever we pick to be the contractor for medians, let's have them study horticulture. Let's have them go learn about plants. Let's have them realize it's a natural thing. It's nature. Landscaping shouldn't be noisy. It shouldn't require loud, noisy, gas-spewing equipment to maintain. It shouldn't require a bunch of chemicals. We're moving in a new way. In the 21st century, we're getting more into the natural way. So our wonderful city should be up on the times. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Good evening, Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. Also, I'd like to amend that I'd like to speak on items C and D briefly. I do concur with what Mr. Nazak just said about the medians. We do need to make it more beach themed, and she does have some terrific ideas on that. On items 8, C, and D, I notice we're spending, once again, a huge amount of money on ICE vehicles. I do have one question because it's not spelled out. Do we know if they're gasoline or diesel-powered engines? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? You're approving it. Large sums of money. Does anybody know?
I don't know if it's gas.
Gasoline.
You sure? Okay. Because what I wanted to say is we should be getting away from diesel. It's obvious the current administration in Washington has declared war on diesel fuels. Some of it I can't disagree with, but you can see the prices are about twice as much. Also, with the new environmental rules, the engines do not perform like they used to in the old days. But we need to get away from all of that. As I've mentioned, we need to be the Daytona of the future, not the Daytona of the past. We need to start seriously looking into using more EVs that are particularly good for use in municipal areas. I also wanted to speak about item 8L, okay? These are upgrades to the water treatment plant, which are indeed needed. But, you know, once again, here we are going down the road, putting Band-Aids on problems instead of coming up with the funds we need to do it correctly. And I've stated numerous times that putting in solar systems on the water treatment plants is an excellent opportunity, not only to save the citizens a great deal of money, and there is funding for some of these things, but also it gives you an opportunity to provide a backup power system, and I've mentioned this as well, so that when we have things like hurricanes and we're at the mercy of the power companies who do such a poor job of maintaining the utilities, and that you can, if you actually inspected, and I brought this up as well, if the inspection and zone maintenance was looked at, you would see how poor the utilities are being maintained. And why is that important? Because, of course, you need the power for the pumps in the system. And during hurricanes and events like that, it is essential to keep those plants running. Solar systems with the battery backups capabilities won't require all those lines to be functioning. And therefore, you'll be able to keep the pumping systems running during these. Obviously, if you've been around a water treatment plant when the power goes out, it's not a nice thing. Orange County had several problems with that, and Orlando had several problems with that, flooding their communities with raw sewage. Again, we need to be the Daytona of the future, not the Daytona of past. Let's be proactive, not reactive. Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Several things. One, we just approved a project for Framework. They will be starting next month or this month on a project on Beach Street. It was announced that, they were talking about, they have other projects as well. Mayor, one of which should have been right on up your alley. Homeless. They have projects for people that are homeless. I'm asking you to consider talking to them, finding property so they can build. Because when those people finish the program out at First Step, where do they go? It's a hard a project to find them affordable housing. Secondly, they also talked to Rob, and Rob was talking about they have a project where women who come out of jail, instead of going back onto the street, they have projects for them. I was talking to a gentleman about a year ago. He had been in rehab several times, and the reason why he failed was because he would get out of rehab, have no place to go, was on the street, and went right back into the same thing. So we need to find places for those people who are coming out of rehab, who are coming out of jail, so they don't repeat. So I'm asking us to work with them in whatever fashion we can, land, money, et cetera, to do what needs to be done. Secondly, the landscaping. On Beachside, it's terrible, all right? In front of the Starlight Diner, there's weeds. It's just, there's no more grass. When they did the work on the project at Oak Ridge, they turned off the water. It's terrible. Picking up of trash, et cetera. So I'm asking, I like Jenny's idea. I like the idea of having minimum maintenance, because the cost is in the labor. I'm sorry, they're public employees, but we have to pay them. We have to pay them appropriately. And the more landscaping that we have that doesn't require labor, the cheaper it is for the city. And lastly, on the holiday lights, if we're keeping the same company, the holiday lights on Beachside were terrible. They were fantastic the first year. They were less the second year. They were less the third year. And they were non-existent the fourth year. So I'm asking that Beachside be looked at very carefully if we're going to do this holiday lighting, that we determine where it should be and how much, especially on the boardwalk. Having no lighting on the boardwalk does not make sense during the holidays. Thank you.
City Manager, will you address that? It's a new contract.
Yes.
That was my final speaker for the consent agenda.
All right, do we have any questions or comments about the consent agenda? All right. We'll have a motion.
We do.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 9, which is our public hearings. Item 9A is the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division, Third Amendment to O'Connor Capital PD. This is an ordinance on second reading public hearing. An ordinance approving the Third Amendment to O'Connor Capital Plan District Agreement to modify the scenic thoroughfare overlay district landscape requirements along Williamson Boulevard, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Third Amendment, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So move. Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Henry.
And I do have Mr. Rob Merrill here on behalf of the applicant for any questions.
All right, we have no questions for Mr. Merrill. All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item 9B, it's the Development and Administrative Services Planning Division, amended and restated Williamson Crossing Lot 6 Proportionate Fair Share Agreement. This is a resolution public hearing. A resolution approving the amended and restated Williamson Crossing Lot 6 Proportionate Fair Share Agreement between the city, Shops at Williamson Crossing LLC, and the County of Volusia, providing for the developer to pay a proportionate fair share contribution to Volusia County in relation to the development of a 10,401 square feet of general retail space and 6,519 square feet of restaurant space within the Williamson Crossing Planned District Development, generally located southeast of the intersection of LPJ Boulevard and Clyde Morse Boulevard, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement and providing an effective date.
We have a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Reed.
And I do have Ms. Jessica Gao here on behalf of the applicant for any questions and no other speakers.
All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Moving on to item 9C, it's the Development Administrative Services Planning Division, Williamson LPGA Fast Food Proportionate Fair Share Agreement. This is a resolution public hearing. A resolution approving the Williamson LPGA Fast Food Proportionate Fair Share Agreement between the city, JRN Inc., and the County of Volusia, providing for the developer to pay a proportionate fair share contribution to Volusia County in relation to the development of a 3,130 square feet of restaurant space on a parcel of land generally located northeast of the intersection of Williamson Boulevard and LPGA Boulevard within the Blake Plan District, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement and providing an effective date.
So move.
I have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Henry.
And I do have Ms. Jessica Gao here on behalf of the applicant for any questions and no other speakers.
Okay, no other speakers. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Item 9D was pulled off the agenda, and we're going to move on to item 10, which is our administrative items, and item 10A was pulled from the agenda tonight. So we're going to move on to item 10B, which was added to the agenda this evening. This is the Hurricane Ian Community Recovery Relief Grants Resolution. A resolution establishing 3 grant programs to help city residents and businesses negatively impacted by Hurricane Ian, establishing the Hurricane Ian Residential Recovery Assistant Grant Program, providing eligible city households of moderate income or below grants up to $9,000 for housing-related costs and losses, subject to conditions, including a total program funding limit of $1,500,000, expanding the SHIP Rehabilitation Program, providing eligible city households of low income or below up to $9,000 for housing-related costs and losses, subject to conditions, including a total program funding limit of $500,000, establishing the Hurricane Ian Small Business Recovery Assistant Grant Program, providing eligible city small businesses grants up to $3,000 for business-related costs and losses, subject to conditions, including a total program funding limit of $500,000, authorizing the city manager or his designee to implement these grant programs, including execution of any documents needed, subject to conditions, authorizing the budget officer to amend the current fiscal year's budget as necessary, and providing an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
We do.
Do we have any speakers?
I have a number of speakers,
Oh,
Mr. Mayor.
we would.
Our first speaker is Shirley Bullard, and on deck is Cynthia Slater. Is there a Shirley Bullard?
Good evening. I'm Shirley Bullitt at 848 Oak Street, Daytona Beach, Florida. And I live across the street from what used to be Halifax Park. But I want to know who to contact, the city responsible or the county. The problem having there, people are coming in that area, taking their trash, actually trash bags, pouring it out on the streets right in front of my house, right at the corner of Oak Street and Fulton Street. And they're putting trash there. So anytime you get wind blowing, it's blowing all in your yard. And I just need to know what can be done about that. Because there is a city code, and then they come after me, and I don't want them coming after me. So is there anything you all could do if you have to look in there and see who it belongs to? But it needs to be stopped.
So is it garbage or trash?
It's garbage. Actually garbage, like people put their Pampers in there, they put food in there, and they're actually dumping, and it was all on the street because today a car could come this way, but the other car had to wait until the other car passed by because the tires, they would have cut their tires on some of the bottles. And you can go by there and see it for yourself.
Okay, yes, ma'am. He's gonna pass it on to the right person to talk with you.
Pass it on to our public works.
Okay, thank you.
Our next speaker is Cynthia Slater, and on deck is Dr. Victor Gooden.
Good evening, Cynthia Slater, 815 South Cottle Circle. I want to take this opportunity to thank this leadership for listening to the residents of Daytona, those who were impacted by hurricane or tropical storm Ian. Our community came together last week and we shared stories of the impact that this storm had on the community. And although the trauma is still there with us, we are a strong and resilient community. But all we needed for you to do was to listen to the needs of the community and how this storm has impacted all of us. And even though it may not have impacted some of you, we all know someone that it has impacted. And it is so hard. I mean, it just breaks my heart. This recommendation of assistance will help, but we want to continue the conversation. We want to continue to raise the awareness of the problems in our community that about all of this flooding. I talked to Hardy Smith today about some things that you all have discussed, and hopefully we can continue to work on the issue of flooding and how this community, not only our community, but the whole community of Daytona Beach and the surrounding areas, municipalities, can work together to solve this issue of flooding in our community so that we won't have to continue to come to these commission meetings to talk about something that impacts all of us. We need to talk about some happy stuff, some good stuff for a change. But I do thank you for these recommendations, and hopefully it won't make us whole, but at least it will give us some relief. And so on behalf of this community, I appreciate what you all have done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dr.
Commissioners, Ms. Slater did provide us a list of all of the comments that came from the community meeting that we have taken and put a part of some discussion points with Hardy and other staff members, but we'll share that with you all because they did provide a litany of things that we think could be beneficial for all of you all to know. So I'll make sure that all commissioners get that information.
Good, good.
And I was at attendance at that meeting. My commissioner.
Yes, sir. Dr. Victor Gooden, 809 Pelican Bay Drive, Daytona Beach, Florida, pastor of New Life Church Ministries and president of the Daytona Beach Black Clergy Alliance Mayor Commission. First of all, I want to thank the city staff, city manager, and Commissioner Reed, who made themselves available, and all of you that have done all you could to help our residents. I was kind of hoping that the grant could be around $10,000 for our residents, and the $9,000 is good and acceptable. The only problem I have and question, and I guess said it was past the consent agenda on 8N, and I just have a concern about receiving COVID money for other city departments from commissioners within the city departments. And I see $1,000 on 8N, if I'm not mistaken, going to Precise Professional Firefighters. Just a concern that money from this Corona package is going to other city departments. And maybe I'm reading that wrong. If I am, I stand to be corrected. But any of that money that you can push toward our residents, we're grateful for it. You all have done a good job. But we still need to talk about the future. Where do we go from here? If we stay the same and we're going to get the same, flooding is going to still exist. This is a good move. It's an excellent move, and we have no problem with it. But what are we going to do to get ready for the next time? A lot of our residents, I know especially my sister-in-law's house, Kathy Washington, I've looked at these houses. They got to be gutted. And some of them have not only got money issues, they've even got what I would call FPTSD, which is flood PTSD, from dealing with these kind of situations. And when I see funds diverted to other things, it just, red flags go up on me. And if, like I said, if I'm misquoting something or misunderstanding something, I stand to be corrected. But I don't want it in no way that money is going to other city departments that could have gone into this fund to help our residents. Thank you for your time.
And for the record, that item was removed from the Bike Week, and it's not another city department, it's a 501c3, but regardless, that $1,000 was removed from the Bike Week Fund sponsorship.
Since you opened the door, there have been disbursements to other city departments out of coronavirus funds. Now, you opened the door, as lawyers would say, Mr. Jackson. So that's still a concern that, and it seems as though, especially this being an election year, when funds go to certain departments.
Thank you,
And
sir.
then certain things are being endorsed by the departments, you all read me.
Okay. Our next speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
Mr. Mayor, while Mr. Brown is coming, may I say something? You all, you are not forgotten. We know that these funds will not satisfy your need, and we know that we need to do something about this flooding. So this conversation does not end tonight, believe you me.
Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. It's a shame that, and he alluded to that, that we have to spend money on problems that we should have fixed a while back. And as was pointed out, being an election year, all of a sudden now things tend to be on the front page. I predicted some of this stuff was going to happen. I know I met Miss Libby Coleman. I visited the neighborhood. I talked to the neighbors. I didn't take that nobody answered the door. I researched the problem. I walked all around the retention ponds. I looked at the pumping situation. It's deplorable. And it's sad that we have to allocate this money. And as I said, we're getting good at being reactive, but we need to start being proactive. I've heard a lot of political talk, but we need to start having real action. And again, I predicted this was going to happen. And when I saw what happened during the flooding, I got as far as I could down there into Cottle Circle during the worst of the storm, and my heart broke from what I saw. The drains, the city did a great job of cleaning the drains. The problem wasn't the drains, as I pointed out. The problem is the retention ponds. The retention pond off of Keach has everything in the world being dumped into it. And as I pointed out, all this stuff was laid out in the previous administration. I think there's only one other person who was on the commission at that time that's still in the room. But the mayor, as I pointed out, who was in charge at that time, none of his car dealerships flooded. But all the water managed to get diverted into Midtown, Newtown area. And when I sat and looked at what happened, when I talked to the neighbors that had been there, and our previous city manager was spoken to about this problem by residents who lived there, okay, I knew it was going to happen. And I told them, I said, the drains are clean, that's great. The problem is there's no place for the water to go, and the water came up out the drains, which were nice and clean. There's only one small pump on that whole system, and it's in poor condition to begin with, and it had no backup. The city did bring down a portable diesel unit that had almost 2.5 times the capacity. It took several days to pump down the millions of gallons of water. Point is, that should have never happened. There's a direct path straight east on that drain system, okay, to be able to pump that water out of there. Okay, and I pointed this out that this was going to happen. Let's start getting smart about this. Okay, this money will help, my math says, about less than 300 people. We shouldn't have had to waste the money to do this. We should have been using this money previously to fix the problem before it became the problem. Okay, everybody knows that we're close to the ocean. We're gonna have storms. And as I pointed out, the sea is still rising. For those that have been here any period of time, we know that. So we need to get proactive.
Good job.
Ms. Murphy, did you want to speak on this item, or were you trying to speak on 8A, which was the Jackie Robinson Echo Grant? that one, okay. So then our next speaker is Ann Ruby.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I know at that meeting, there were a lot of things that were very practical that were brought up, like the gates that can go across doors, things that the city could actually try to provide some funding for. But I think one of the big things we need to do is draw real attention in DC to our need for the funding for the Army Corps of Engineer project. So I've had this idea kind of percolating that I would like to see the city organize, because I don't have the capacity, see the city organize a cookout and invite residents to come and write letters. If form letters won't do, signing petitions won't do. And everybody, you could copy the letter 4 times, once to the congressman, 2 senators, and the president. And everybody, and you could tell your story once, get the letters copied. The city could also set up, hopefully, a video booth. People could just give a video testimony for a couple of minutes about how it impacted them. And then we put the whole package together, and instead of mailing it to DC, put some people out, get everybody on buses, go to DC and deliver it, and try to make a big impact so that they understand that there are real people behind this suffering, and it's ongoing, and it's repeated, and this project is needed. It's not going to be enough for a congressman to just write a letter. It's not enough. It's not enough for everybody to just write letters. Maybe if we got 10,000, that would be good. But the bigger the stink we can make, the more intrusive we can be, the better. And I'm hoping the city will organize it. I would like to volunteer Ted Hordecki to run the cookout if we do have a cookout. I've already talked to him. He's more than willing. Thank you.
That was our final speaker on this item.
Okay. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any other comments from this group, commission? All right. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. This motion carries 7-0.
So we're going to go back to item 8A, which was pulled to the administrative items. 8A is the City Manager's Office Volusia Echo Grant Application. Resolution, a resolution authorizing submittal of a grant application to Volusia County Echo Grant Program in the amount of $2,500,000 for a multi-use community building at Jackie Robinson Ballpark, authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute all necessary documents in furtherance of the grant application and providing an effective date.
So move.
Well, we have a motion, we have a second.
And Mr. Driscoll is going to come up, and then I do have speakers.
And do want to say one of the key things, because we received a message that we are not allocating any funds to this grant. If we or receive the award, it will have to come back to you all to decide if you want to allocate matching funds. That was the key thing that people are thinking, that we're going to just allocate and authorize me to put funds in, and that is not the case if you all want us to apply for this grant.
We gotta apply for it.
Drew Driscoll, Deputy City Manager and Fire Chief, once again. The grant before you this evening, would you prefer me to wait? Application and application only for Volusia Echo Grant, exceptional grant for a multi-use community space at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. This multi-use community space is approximately 5,900 plus or minus square feet in size, built on the footprint of the existing clubhouse for a total construction cost of approximately $4.3 million. The grant requires a 1-for-1 match. So we'll receive, if awarded, we would receive and accepted by this body, I should repeat. If we're awarded $2.5 million from ECHO, we would be responsible for $1,875,000, and we are currently being credited $625,000 part of our matching funds. Again, this is for application only. If awarded, the acceptance would come back before this body at a future date. And our hope is to further the conversation at a future date with this commission regarding the Jackie Robinson renovations that we briefly saw the other workshop. I know not everyone was able to attend, but it's important that we receive direction from this body, and so we think it's important to have that conversation. With me tonight is Beth Lemke with Planning Solutions Corporation. She is our city's grant authority and also our strategic planning person. So if you have any questions regarding the grant, Beth is definitely our person to speak with. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, just Drew pretty much summed it up. I think it's an opportunity to move forward with an ECHO grant, which I think is something the city has been wanting to pursue that funding and obtain it and bring it here to Daytona Beach. So this was an opportunity to do that, and as was stated earlier, this allows us to move forward with the application, which is a very quick, it's November 10th is when we have to have this in. We have to have a resolution as part of the application to make it complete. So that's why we needed to kind of move quickly on it as far as, going forward with the submittal now. And we will, this resolution would only obligate you to move forward with the submittal. You would not be obligated to accept anything until you come back. Typically when we do an application, we do at the time of application, you would be accepting the grant, like you're giving staff the ability to go forward and do everything to go get the money, and if they're successful getting the money, then go ahead and accept it and put it in the budget and all that with one fell swoop. That's not what's happening tonight. It's going to be done in 2 steps, so it gives you another full opportunity to review it and come back to commission. So.
And the reason I request that be done, because I think that we need to have a full discussion as a elected body on your direction of where we go with the entire Jackie Robinson project, and also with the partnership with the Tortugas and the Red. So that's why normally you all just allow for the acceptance to take place, and we decided that we need to just have that discussion and let a discussion come back at a later time for the entire project.
Have we applied for a grant for the city rec? Yeah.
So within, and I'll let Beth expand upon this, within the ECHO program, like most grants, you have to have more of a fully baked program. You normally have design, you have a full costing, the programming of the facility, and we just heard from the rec committee's recommendations, and you had accepted the report just last meeting, so it's nowhere near fully baked for that. This go-round, this action does not prevent us from exploring an ECHO grant in the future for the City Island Rec Building. I just want to confirm that.
Thank you.
Is the Midtown Center the last thing we received an ECHO grant on?
It's in there.
No, we've had something besides that?
No, the
Scarlet Golden and
Oh,
several.
why is,
It's not the last either.
Yeah, specifically for ECHO, I believe it was the clock tower where we supplemented money while it was under construction because the cost went up. I think that was the last
Yeah,
one
on
for
page
ECHO.
9 of the application. And our partners at Volusia County have been great. From the ECHO grant program, we've had Jackie Robinson Museum, Main Street Park Landscape Acquisition, Main Street Park Phase 2, Cypress Competitive Public Pool, Bethune Point Skate Park, Midtown Cultural, the Municipal Stadium Turf, the Yvonne Scarlet Golden Center, another Midtown Center, the band shell stabilization, the Peabody Auditorium renovations, and of course, the clock tower.
so we've been very successful at getting ECHO grants.
Contrary to some.
That knows her stuff.
More-
ECHO.
Okay, I don't think this is, we have to do this. So, y'all have any questions or comments?
I do have a few speakers.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
ECHO, is there only 2 times a year that we can apply, or can we apply anytime?
It is just one time a year for the ECHO grant.
Okay, so what you're saying is we can't apply for a grant for the Orange Avenue Rec Center until next year?
For the exceptional grant, it is one time a year.
Exceptional grant. Okay.
That wouldn't be an exceptional grant.
For the value.
break it down, how those part for the.
Yeah, there was a time when ECHO was amending their guidelines, I think it was last year, so they sort of explored twice-a-year submittals, but they quickly did away with that. I don't think they got a lot of response, or I'm not sure why they specifically eliminated that, but it's always been, other than that sort of little trial that they did once a year. So it would have to be on this agenda tonight to have us provide all the documentation for an eligible application that's due November 10th.
For the Rex?
Just for any project in the city that you might be putting forward for an ECHO grant, it would have to come to this agenda tonight. Otherwise, we're going to, there is no way to make the
So we have
deadline
to
for
wait
this
a
year.
year to
So you'd have to wait a year for ECHO. There is other grant sources, though, that we do pursue that's not ECHO, quite a few of them.
And he said it's because we're not ready. We just approved the rec center last meeting, and there are things that have to be in place in order for it to go before ECHO, and we're not ready for that yet. So that's why it's not being submitted.
Thank you, Paula.
You're welcome, Ken.
Okay, my first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Ann Ruby.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. Ruth, there's plenty of money. There's $127 million in ECHO, and they can't get rid of the money. So whatever we ask for, generally we'll get. So don't worry about the rec center. Secondly, I'm thinking,
You so sure.
I'm sure. 127 million is a lot of million if they only get requests for 4 million. So they're adding, and that's the reason why they went to 2, because they want to get rid of it. Secondly, I'm asking you to think holistically with regard to the Jackie Robinson project. I wasn't aware of the $30 million. Is this part of that 30 million holistically, or is this in addition to it? Okay. Because once we finish the park on Beach Street, City Island is going to look terrible. It is really shabby. The roadway, the parking lot, many parts of it need to be upgraded. So I'm asking you to look holistically, because if Jackie Robinson is done and the rec center is done, then what do we have? And then we're going to put in the new, was it museum or whatever, for the Veterans Bridge. So that plaza is in the works right now. So you're getting parts of City Island that are going to be looking really, really nice. So I'm asking you to consider holistically looking at, because I talked to David, what would it cost to blacktop it? What would it cost to restripe it? What would it cost to put in yellow curbs? All of which enhance the look of City Island. We have probably 17 of those islands that have trees that no longer have trees. It's just grass and weeds. So we need to kind of upgrade City Island to match Beach Street. Because when people come down for Beach Street, they go to City Island, they go to the courthouse, they go to the library, and they will notice the difference. So I'm asking us to look carefully, even if it's just minor things like painting and striping and whatever, will totally enhance that look that we want to bring downtown. Because that framework apartments are going to be dynamite. They really, really will enhance it. That park, although some people don't like the layout of the park and whatnot, it's not what I would have wanted, but it is a first-class park. It is dynamic. It really will shape downtown, and I'm asking you to holistically look at everything so that we don't just kind of nitpick and leave things undone. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Ann Ruby, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue. I thought when they did their presentation, they wanted to focus on the player development building. That's where they wanted to start, that was the most critical piece for the Tortugas. So I'm confused why we're going for this first. That was going to be a $17 million project. Maybe that's why they're starting here, because it's less money. But I thought that's where they were starting. I think in terms of being concerned about the rec center, it would be better to get this ECHO money in this cycle so that we could apply for the ECHO money for the rec center next cycle, not have the two of them colliding. So I think in that sense, it might make sense. It's not a threat. But there's two things when Sandy's going to speak about as well. What is the team's commitment to remaining in Daytona Beach? If we don't have a bond on that, if we don't have a commitment from them, we're just going to be spending a lot of money to make a field for who knows what. The other thing that is really, really important to me is the drawings and the renderings they showed of their proposed design are inappropriate for the field. We have a 1914 field that's really very modest, and they're going to encase it in 2 stone and metal warts. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to look good. I would challenge them to please just take the skin of those buildings, take the design, the shape, and make it fit with a 1914 ball field, as if the 1914 ball field had been built to look spectacular. And I don't think it would cost that much more, and I think it would be really important to the historic nature of what we're doing down there, because if Jackie Robinson Field stays and it gets renovated and it stays in use, and then you have the rec center restored, and you have the old casino restored, and the fire station, suddenly it would look very historic and lovely, and as I mentioned before, it could be considered possibly for filming, film locations, because we'd have a whole little strip, and then right up Beach Street would have the older buildings. It could become a great resource for us. But if we encase it in these big stone warts, I think it's a big mistake, just aesthetically. So I think we really need to have them go back to the design board just on the skin of it. And you can have your floor-to-ceiling windows. They just maybe can't be modern and glassy looking. They could have mullions. But I think there's ways to make it look good without having it be an old modest ball field encased in stone. I think that's just inappropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Our final speaker is Sandy Murphy.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. At the risk of being repetitive, I do want to hit on some of those points that Ann made. Even in terms of putting in our staff time, if we are not getting some kind of commitment from this group up front for a long-term use of that field, we are wasting our time and money. So I would hope that we would focus on that immediately and try to understand what the deal will be if we can provide them with the financial support that they're asking for. The second piece is that we are developing, or can be developing, an historic destination for tourism. And we talked before, when we spoke of the Orange Avenue Rec, of how much money historic tourism can bring in. This is an opportunity to kind of complete the picture down there with the rec center, with the Tortuga's office, with the firehouse. You know, we have a lovely little area, and so this does make sense to put some money into it if it looks like the rest of the area. If you take a look at some of the major ballpark renovations that have happened, and I know this is way out of scale, but Yankee Field, you know, it's a different country than us, but it's also in terms of recreating the sense of the little ballpark that they used to have. They managed to do that, even though they were building something entirely different on the inside. They kept that feeling that they had on the outside. Possibly a better example would be Oriole Park at Camden Yards. They have done a fabulous job there of updating their ballpark and making it look as if it belonged to the era when it first began. And I don't think it's ever too early to start talking about what our expectations are in that regard, because these things develop a momentum of their own, and next thing you know, it becomes too late to change things. So I hope those are two things that you will talk about early and often, is their commitment and the design of the place to make it look like it belongs with our historic area. Thank you.
I just want to say that as it relates to their commitment, folks are committed to what they invest in. So there has to be some, conversation about their investment financially as well. So it's not just about us investing, but I concur with your sentiments.
Me and Bob and Drew will be soon working with the Tortugas to extend their agreement, and all of those are part of the discussion points that we have. We talked about that earlier today because their contract is ending, and so that will be part of the discussion that if you want us to invest, what is the long-term commitment, because the Tortugas have agreed to that, and the Reds, I believe, are going to do the same thing, but that is a part of our discussions.
Okay. Did we have a motion?
Yeah, we
We
had a
did?
motion in a second.
Who was it? I
It was
don't remember.
Cantu and Henry was the
Okay,
second.
all right. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and there's no further comment. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And that was our final agenda item.
All right, we'll commence with commission comments.
This is Commissioner.
And Commissioner Traeger.
Good night.
Yes, ma'am. I'm with you.
Wow, I'm glad I was prepared. I just want to thank Public Works and Andy Holmes for working with P&S Paving to help alleviate flooding out at the $7 million First Step Shelter. They've got most of the drain line on the back end, back of there, and some other issues they're going to have to take care of with our Public Works people to deal with utilities. Also, Andy Holmes and Dave Waller, I'd like to thank them for helping resolve the debris removal and the issue of flooding. I just don't want us to see us stop working on this until we resolve it. It's been pushed aside for years and years and years, and we got to do something about it. We can't just, and I know it's going to be expensive, but there's got to be a way to stop this or to fix this and to help those people that are living in those areas that flood constantly. And that's it for me. Good night.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner May.
So I wanted to say thank you to FPL. They've worked really well with us during the storm. I appreciate all their efforts. Waste Pro and our Public Works, I don't know how many ways I can say thank you very much. You've been extremely responsive. I've had some residents who have literally been heartbroken over some debris issues, and they should be. And just you showing up and taking care of them at that particular time helped them emotionally quite a bit. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just want to mention that I've been receiving comments from the boaters because I have residents who are full-time boat people. I have residents who live on the river as well, quite a few condos and homes, and the lights were out. And very quickly on Veterans Bridge, the lights were out for quite a while. And very quickly, it became very dark under there. At night, I started having, which would explain why I was having some homeless move in under the bridge. It was already happening, but it increased to the point where people were starting to defecate under the bridge on the boardwalk areas, etc. And so I'm glad we're trying to work with that pretty well within 24 hours. I think the city worked really well with the county, and the lights were turned back on. It's a beautiful bridge, one of the most beautiful bridges in Florida. And I would like to see us be able to maintain what it's supposed to be. So thank you very much for that. Last week, I had the opportunity to go and meet with a group of physicians in Daytona Beach, or Volusia County, actually, the Volusia Physicians Group Association. And with me, I took 2 representatives from the Volunteers in Medicine. I thought since they were inviting me, I asked these 2 ladies, Ms. Francine Barr and Ms. Sandra Straub, if they would like to come with me and make their pitch to the doctors. They had about 50 doctors in one room at one time. And my hope is that by those doctors meeting the Volunteers in Medicine program, that they can have a long, long, long relationship, because I think they do fantastic work. So I told them both, you are my dates. That's what I'm bringing with me, right? I also had the opportunity to meet with FEMA. They actually came to my studio, and I met with 4 representatives. They gave me more information. I, again, directed them completely to Commissioner Reed, because I said she was their best contact for reaching all of the city officials for Volusia League of Cities. They had a special rep for that. We spoke about some of the programs, some of the Career Source programs that are available to residents as well that have been increased. And then I went for a tour with a gentleman named Steve Parker, and they put me through the process of applying for FEMA. I saw some residents who were there who were getting help. I said to them, what is the one thing you want me to tell people over and over again? If you are denied, appeal it. You may have to go through 2 appeal processes before you are finally accepted, but you have to go through the appeal process. They also made a statement. The statement was, your circumstances change. So if you go into FEMA on a Monday, and let's say a month later, your situation has changed because you've used up your savings, when you go that second time to reapply, you may be eligible. So their goal was every time, and the phrase was, your situation or circumstance changes, you have to come and you're not reapplying, you're just updating your information source. And I thought that was a very useful thing for residents to know. Also, they send me information every day, and I have a direct contact now. And what they said was that we now have until November 28th before the FEMA program changes a bit. And so what I'm telling residents to do, the residents in my zone, I'm saying go and apply and get yourself into the system, because you may not qualify now, but you may qualify 3 months from now when you discover you have mold that you never thought about. And that's what they mean with the situation may change, more information may come out. So I told them that this evening I would take the time to tell everybody about it. Hopefully it helps. Let's talk about the $100,000 that I've put into landscaping. I would like to know, my intent with that was to help my CRAs, because I know that my CRAs struggle a little bit to get funding, to have access to funds. That was my goal. The grant has been out now for about, 2 weeks? I think people have applied. And my question is, I would be open to expanding the boundaries or making it citywide, because the thing is, we have income guidelines. If you don't qualify for the income guidelines, meaning if you make too much, there's nothing you can do about that. So is that something that we want to make a motion on, or do we want to keep it? But I want to make it open to the commission. I mean, I'm hoping that your residents have applied, because you have a good chunk of people in Zone 6. Have they been applying?
Like yourself, I'm not aware of who has applied or if anyone has applied.
Right.
That might
I know
be something
that-
you ask staff to tell you.
Yeah, I have gotten an update. For some people, it's we've had people apply. I've gone and given out, like literally said, yeah. And what bothered me was there was a particular street, May Street, where I was trying to give out some applications. When I looked at my map, I realized that they fall right outside. So where Allen Chapel is, you're inside and not half a block away, where I think people need it on Washington and Roma and Model Street and Aberdeen and Spruce and Cannon. They cannot have access to it. And when I originally put this in place, my goal was to have it encompass those areas as well. But for whatever reason, that's not how the resolution read. So I'd like to know, can I expand those boundaries? And I'm happy to go citywide, because, again, there are income restrictions. I know that the people in Zone 3 will qualify. I've got huge areas that will definitely qualify, but they fall right outside of that CRA boundary. So can I make a motion for that?
Of course you can. I mean, yeah, of course. That's
Okay.
a simple answer.
Okay.
One of my concerns with it is this, it's $1,000, and I'm just concerned that once you hire a contractor to do that level of work, so much of it is eaten up by someone else.
So what's interesting about the program, which I found intriguing, which is why I kind of like the way Mr. Thomas set it up, and he can speak to it if he'd like, was that the city, I think, already has a contractor. They already have somebody they vetted, somebody they trust, somebody who's charging them reasonable rates, and somebody will go out to do the work. And I will tell you that I have residents in Zone 3 who are predominantly over the age of 55, who are, some of them are ill with disabilities. They cannot do the work themselves. So the fact that the program states that this contractor will work with you, that to me is a huge, it's a huge thing in this particular program.
You know, this is one of the issues with ARPA funds. And when the city does it, you don't get as much bang for your buck. It's just the way it is. It just doesn't work because we have too much. But when you go through nonprofits, and that's why you see a lot of money and going to nonprofits, because they are able to execute and it's what they do. Unfortunately, you don't really have a lot of nonprofits. I don't think Ted is a nonprofit, but
I'm going to
he's a
say something.
nonprofit in and of himself, but he just doesn't qualify. But my point is, that when you have a nonprofit, they are able to do more because they're not profiting off of it. And it's just a comment.
I agree with you. So I will say, I did have a nonprofit approach me originally, but I'd already given them a large amount of money toward housing. And the offer was, they'd be happy to do more work with landscaping. But I thought that the community would not appreciate one particular nonprofit getting such a huge chunk. But the reality is they would have taken that and kind of extended it a little bit. So that was how I looked at it. Yes, it is.
That I'm thinking of,
It is.
then I don't think anyone has a problem with that nonprofit. And I would stand with anyone who stands for them. Because when they do work, we know the quality of their work. They're working.
I agree.
So,
But I thought that the impression would not be well suited. So that being the case, we are now where we are. If we want to pivot, meaning cities doing it, if we want to change that as a commission, we can make the adjustment. And I'm sure that particular nonprofit would gladly accept the responsibility of administering it, taking care of it, getting extra volunteers, as long as we as a commission are okay with that. And it's not just, Commissioner May made this decision. It's a commission. I said city first because we could manage it. But if you think that an outside nonprofit, one that we know of, could do this work and do more.
I absolutely think that, and I would be supportive of that because I know what a contractor, does, and that's what they do. They're going to profit. They're going to eat up half of the money is going to go to them, or more. So I would recommend and be supportive of that if it's the nonprofit that you've used in the past.
May I speak the name of the nonprofit? Okay, just to be clear, I gave $60,000 to Home Spring Hope, and with that money, they went ahead and they hired somebody to work in their organization who then supports about 50 to 100 families, and they also put homes inside Zone 3 and also Zone 6. I have a home right now on Walnut Street, and I have another home on Aberdeen Street, and those homes did not flood because I kept in touch. They were fantastically built, and they give complete support to the people living in the homes. You're not just left there. So I make a motion that that we take the remainder of my $100,000, and I think there's still in chunk, and we move that toward Home Spring Hope, and with that, their goal is to use it for landscaping. Now, when they use landscaping, they already have additional nonprofits they work with. They do everything based on volunteers, so you're not paying for anything, and they double it. And so more of the area could actually be used. I hope that they will look at the zones that are truly impacted and need that kind of support. I don't know what their guidelines are, but I think they're fair. And so their goal is also 32114. So that would be my motion. Hopefully I can get some support for that.
Can't second, but do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that. And so it's still your application process in order for them to qualify.
That is something we would have to work out with them.
Let them manage.
Yeah. But remember, their focus is 32114. Yeah.
I gave $60,000 as well.
Exactly. So that is where we are.
Yeah, may I make a suggestion in that regard? So we don't want to completely defund. I wouldn't suggest you completely defund the landscaping program you've already authorized. We've got applications out there. We wouldn't want to leave them without support.
Balance?
So, yeah, if you could pick a number, and if Ken's here, maybe he can tell us, how much is already committed in terms of applications. Pick a number which will fund the existing landscaping program from the remainder of the 100 then could go toward a program with Home Spring Hope. We would have to have a contract in place for them to administer that program and setting out guidelines. So that'd have to come back to you for approval.
Yeah.
But we can pursue that with your authorization.
Please. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we have about 15 applications right now.
All right, so why don't you just say
85?
75,000?
Let's go.
10 more.
Okay, 80? 80?
Yeah.
He wants every nickel.
15 applications, that's $15,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
85 is left. 85 if you got 15.
Yeah.
That's whatever it takes.
So some might still be coming in. Some people might still be coming in.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much. I think they'll double. They'll double
I
in
think
terms of
it'll be more
effort.
than double because Commissioner Reed and I were out this weekend, and they'll get much more done. I mean, I can just tell you, because they're gonna get the plants cheaper than anybody else is gonna get them. Because you know that's what they do. They go out, she gets a deal from them, and she says, I'm doing this to help people. Now, what are you gonna do to help me? She's just a wheel. I mean, a giant.
Going to go directly into 32114, which is beautiful for me. All right? Thank you.
As I understand the motion, the 20,000 toward the current landscape grant will still be earmarked for the CRA and for those in need, low or moderate income. The program, which we'll do through Home Spring Hope, will be citywide. Is that correct?
32114, well, yeah.
Citywide, and we'll bring that back to you for.
Right. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any speakers?
Does anyone want to speak to this item before we vote?
Okay.
I think that's a great idea. I think sometimes, because there is so much bureaucracy with the city, all of the money, like projects that I come in and I talk to them about, and they're like, well, you can't do that, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, by the time I try to do this project, there's not going to be any money left for the actual project because you have to go through so many things. So I learned that if you can find a reputable nonprofit that can help with some of your projects that you want to get done, you definitely get more bang for your buck. And so I'd encourage anybody else to.
So would I, and I just have to tell you that one of the main, and y'all know I'm almost like an expert. I've read so much on it, and I pride myself on it because, you know, at the mayor's conference is one of the things that we just spent a lot of time diving into. But it was one of the things that most of the other municipalities did. But it's up to us to make sure that we are finding the ones that are truly pushing and driving. And I read every one of them. I know the ones that we've given to, and I'm like, and I just shake my head, yeah. Because, you know, even the ones that, as it relates, we talked earlier about our schools and about our children and how poorly they did on the SAT and the ACT, these COVID babies, how poorly they're doing on all sorts of other assessments, the NAEP assessment. And so, you know, we're finding ways. We did a lot of very important projects this summer to help remediate something. Supported programs.
Could you talk about that? Because people don't realize that we all gave money for I say the WISH program, but Miss Ida Wright's program.
Yeah.
I wish they would have come and made a presentation just to tell us, but could you just share? Could you share with us what happened so people understand where the money went?
That was one project, but I would like for them, as you said, to come and do a presentation. Because what we did in that program specifically was those kids were learning skills for interviewing, you know, skills for public presentation, skills for banking, budgeting, just a litany of things that they otherwise don't learn, and they got paid to participate in the program. I saw students that I knew that I've worked with, and I visited the program and I watched how much better they were in that program than they are in a public school setting. I was amazed. I went back and I would go up and talk to them, and they were just like different people. Part of it was they were incentivized, but those programs work far better than anything we could have done if we as a city had tried to do that. And so let's continue to find those types of projects to support. But it was great. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, right?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. All right, is that it, Commissioner? Commissioner Cantu?
Yes. We had a great Halloween event on Halloween, a big turnout. Actually, there was a cute little police officer I think belonged to you that arrested Commissioner Henry, I think, for stealing a lot of candy. There was a few things. One that really great news. On Grand Champion, they're installing the foundations for the mast arm signals. And I'd like to give a shout out to Lennar, who is the developer of Preserve at LPGA, who actually is paying for that for the residents of Grand Champion. And they work together very well. The developer did. And actually, I think the cost of that, the bonding of that was $1.2 million. So a lot of people say developers don't do a lot.
Yes, they do.
They actually do, because they actually did this for Grand Champion, another subdivision, and not the one they're building. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them. Also, my TPO meeting was a couple weeks ago, and I found out they are updating the criteria, I can't even talk today, updating the current needs, and they're going to be adding more points and for projects that come before them, for ranking, for safety, climate change, like drainage issues. So actually, that will help on for our project on Mason Avenue when we turn that in as well. And that vote should be coming, I think it's going through the TIT community meeting, then it will be coming before the TPO for us to vote on November 30th. There was something else, the cell phone tower that I'm so excited about, and I'm sure my Zone 4. Could you give us a little update on that, please?
Commissioner, Mayor, Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager. In respect to the cell tower out at LPGA, we had responses to the bids. We awarded the bid to a local contractor. Purchasing is working on the contract now to award the work. It'll come to the commission to be awarded when the contract is completed. And it will be a tower that's over 180 feet tall to serve the area, should provide coverage for 4 to 5 providers in the space allocated on the tower. It's a very experienced company, and once they get the work assigned, I'm sure it will go quickly.
And so everyone's in approval with the cell tower, correct? Okay.
Nothing to approve yet, but you have a
I know,
contract soon to
but
do it.
we're all okay for them coming back, okay? Because I know our residents are very excited about that, and I'm sure you need cell coverage as well. Okay. And my next thing is, I just wanted to wish, next Friday is Veterans Day, and I want to wish all our Daytona Beach veterans, and thank you for your service. Not wish them, but thank you for their service.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Commissioner Henry?
Just have a couple questions about the rollout of the grant. So Allen and Peabody are very small. I was wondering, will we be prepared for the volume of people?
Yep.
Because the need is going to be so great?
It's going to be not one setting, it'll be like 12 to 7 p.m. So it'll be long times where people can come in all day. It won't be come and sit down. We'll have staff members there. So it'll be an all day to accomplish. If you work during the day, you'll have opportunities at night.
Okay, and are we preparing and making sure that parking for the seniors and disabled is going to be, because I can imagine we're going to have a great senior and disabled. So I want to make sure that that's something that we're going to have.
Yeah, we'll make sure. We'll make sure.
Okay. They got a whole section for
At
that?
Allen.
At Allen Chapel on the east side of it, all of that's pretty much for handicapped, that east side of the building.
We got you,
Okay.
Commissioner.
All right. Thank you so much. Those were my questions. The Halloween event at City Hall was really nice. It was great to see city staff interacting with the children and just doing things outside of city staff stuff. That was just really great to see. It was great to see Mr. Sexton. I didn't know
That's what I
had,
thought.
like really, I didn't know Mr. Sexton had it in him. He got a little soul in him. So he was a great DJ and a great host, and I really enjoyed that. I know that we've outgrown City Hall, and that's going to hurt Commissioner Cantu quite a bit, but we're really going to have to move it because we had so many people, and we want to make sure that people are spending their time actually getting around to the trunk or treat and not standing in line. So, yeah, we're going to actually have to move that.
I know, I tried to pull a fast one on Future, but it didn't work.
No, I was.
Hey, but maybe we should make a motion that we need Sexton next year.
That would be great.
Was good.
Yeah. Also for the parade, is it a fee for schools and stuff to participate in the parade?
And I think we
Christmas
actually paid
parade?
them last year, the bands.
Because I've been really working
Which
on
parade are you on?
our Christmas parade.
Oh,
I think that actually we gave donations to the marching bands to participate just as a something, but I don't know if I don't know if it's the fee. Keep working.
I've been working on bringing, calling all the schools and calling all the chorus people and everybody to bring the kids and everybody to be in the parade.
that's a great idea.
So I really want to know before I tell them, come on, bring the kids, it's free. If there's a fee, I need to let them know.
Let me look real quick.
Is there something?
Or if there is a fee, I would like to maybe waive the fee or I would like to,
can't waive fees.
I will pay for the schools to have their out of my funds for schools that want to participate.
I actually don't think a fee because we supported the bands.
No fee.
And paid them. I don't think there's a fee.
Okay. There's not a fee?
Yeah, I don't think there's a fee.
Okay.
Betty, if she's listening, please don't get at me.
And my last question is for the Santa Run. I want to make sure that we have started getting the route ready for the Santa Run so that we can make the Santa Run much bigger this year and a much bigger route. I want to make sure that we have enough time to plan that out.
It's already here.
And that's all my questions and comments for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Reed?
Yes, sir. First of all, I'd like to just mention the historical Midtown 5K. It was very successful. We were hoping to have 50 people. We had 150 people sign up and 122 to show up. And it was a very diverse group. Jenny was in it. Jenny ran barefooted.
She's got a shirt.
In fact, she has her shirt on right now. Show them your shirt, Jenny. Families, young, old, from all walks of life. And it was a great day. It was a beautiful day for 5K. We had those historical signs made of the various businesses. We did recognize, though, that maybe next year we need balloons or something to mark them because we couldn't really tell the cars not to park. So you may have missed a sign or two. But we're very excited about that and already getting ready for next year. We find that October date is probably the date that we should have. We're not impeding on any other programming that's taking place. That will be our time. I asked those that ran, would they like to see it again? They said yes. I said, if we do it again, will you come? They said yes. So I'm thinking that we will probably have even more because there are some people that just run, so they're looking for a run, every month or sometime to just kind of keep thembselves going. So I will indicate that an Embry-Riddle student won for the fastest male. I will say that the mayor's son beat him. And
we also noticed that on the pictures, they show him running, but on the cameras, it shows him walking. We have both.
But it was a great day. And little did I know, the manager had signed me up for another 5K, which I did with Bethune-Cookman on Sunday. Commissioner May and I were at that one, and they did it for breast cancer. And it was primarily sponsored by the track team, I believe, and then they had all the student body to join them. So that was a great day. Theirs was primarily on the sidewalk, and they went their circumference from the Mary McLeod Bethune statue down Lincoln, down George Ingram to Walnut, then back to International Speedway, and then back to the grave. So that was it was nice. And to see the students out there and to share with them that they didn't know whose life they may have been saving by taking, that stride that morning to get up on Saturday morning with their pink T-shirts and run around the city. So that was great. Speaking of the Homes Bring Hope, the mayor and I, it was about 2 hours, wasn't it? Good God. There are 4 new homes in Zone 6 from Homes Bring Hope. We judged the surrounding neighborhoods. And what I really like about this is when they build a house on a street, they go down the street and beautify the other homes because they don't want their new house to be on a street where others aren't necessarily able or can't or weren't able to take care of their property. So we were judging the other properties that various groups of businesses had gone down and had taken care of. So they planted plants, they trimmed shrubs, they pressure washed other homes to match these homes. And what was even more pleasing for me is one of the persons that's receiving one of those homes is the Embry-Riddle employee that I personally knew on Saturday. So that was really nice. We actually got to walk into one of the homes. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, master bedroom with its bath, little kitchenette. It was very nice, brand new house. Absolutely lovely. And like the mayor said, none of their homes flooded. I'd like to know the status of our senior prom. I think I know I asked about that. I hope we're working on that. My seniors said they wanted it, and I said, let's do it, and I hope we're doing it. And I haven't heard anything. So somebody let me know what's going on. You can't tell me tonight, but I would like to know.
I let them off. Keith and Betty, they're listening.
Oh, okay. So Keith and Betty, please let Commissioner Reed know what's happening with the senior prom. All right. And I might do a little Santa run myself this year. Just like my family's. No, I can't do it.
The chief say that's a lot of work.
So you can't do 2 Santa runs. Well, my little babies live in these same homes that these adults are complaining about. My little babies might need a little encouragement. They might have FPSTD. Flood. PTSD. Look how the manager's looking at me like, don't plan another Santa run. Maybe I'll just have
He had the best time in the Santa run. Better than
I bet he did.
But we're planning the senior prom for her zone.
That's nothing to do with children.
Okay.
May I plan something else for the children? Maybe they'll come to me and I don't go to them. Maybe a little Christmas party for the little kiddies. Nah. And I will conclude my comments by saying, if you did not know, let me tell you, it's homecoming. Hey! For both of my institutions, it's homecoming for Embry-Riddle, and we have never lost a football game. And we ain't got a football team. It's homecoming for Bethune-Cookman University, and y'all, please pray. In the name of Jesus, please pray. If nothing else, we'll just have a good old time coming home. My. Welcome to the jungle.
Is that it? Yes, sir. Okay, I'm going to be very brief tonight. 2 things. One, the manager gives out a lot of information, but he was not at the 5K. And
neither of them.
I was looking for him, but he was not there. And that's all I'll say about that. I might have run a little faster if he had been there.
He would have.
And so
He would have.
I did lose to a 10-year-old, and I've been training and getting him ready, so I did lose by substantially more than I expected to. And Keith Willis and I, who are classmates, both, I won't say we regretted it, but we paid for it several days after. Because neither of us run quite like we used to. So that was great. A lot of great things taking place, and that concludes my comments for tonight.
Just want you to say there is a lot of good information in the current city manager's update. They didn't give you all one? Oh, it's a bunch of good
Came
stuff.
through your email already too.
Yeah. It really is a bunch of good information in here, and I do want to say that I traveled with the CVB and the Ocean Center to Oklahoma last week, and there are 2. If you read the first page, there are 2 good projects that I think that could be essential for our community. One deals with rowing. And bringing that type of development to our area. But also in here, I'm surprised Frederick Brown didn't talk about, Jeff Brown has been working on our charging stations with the Public Works for electric vehicles. And so they're going to be through, oh, he's coming. So we've worked out some things to get that. But please check this information, very good information. Just want to thank the commissioners for entrusting me to travel with the group to try to bring back some things for our area. And I think out of the 38 meetings, we're going to bring back programs and projects and conventions that can be used at our stadium, at the Ocean Center, our ballparks. One of the key things that we're going to be discussing in a retreat, in a discussion for a workshop, is how do we maximize our 600 acres and what's the best use for it for us to do a master plan out there by First Step Shelter could be a recreation and park space for Daytona Beach. And so how do we do that over the next couple of years? We'll be having that chat because there are a lot of great things. The mayor and I just say we've been talking with different groups about recreation coming to the area. And so we're going to be bringing those things up in the next couple of months to your attention as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
All right.
I sent Kim to go get some of those to pass it on the days.
Oh,
You
good.
know, I think they're just left in our office.
All right. Now we'll hear from the residents of Daytona Beach.
Okay.
Bob, you have anything?
No, sir, thank you.
Poor
Thank
Bob.
you, Commissioner.
Our first speaker is Frederick Brown, and on deck is something.
Reuben Jacob.
Reuben Jacob,
631 North.
Grandview. Okay. And on deck is Sunil Kumar, but I think he might have left.
Good evening, Commission. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity to speak as a citizen of Daytona. Again, it's Frederick Brown, 1508 Crescent Ridge, Daytona Beach. I'm going to open with a slight ad. Back in January of 1968, HM3, its hospital medic, Malcolm Jeffrey Mole, was killed in action in Vietnam. He was also known as Doc Mole. He was killed by an explosive device planted on some of our own troops, so he was booby-trapped. He was buried in Daytona Memorial Park on Bellevue, and no tombstone was ever provided. He's laid at rest, a veteran who died for his country with no tombstone. My group, VVA 1048, is actively trying to get that tombstone interred, but we're going to be doing a memorial service for him on Veterans Day at 1500 hours. So if any of you want to attend, we'd love to have you there. My honor guard will be present there, and we'll be playing taps and doing the honors for him. It's way overdue. I've told you how I felt about the flooding issues. There are answers to these problems. And nobody likes a guy to come in and say, well, I told you so, but I could do that. But let's move forward. Again, let's be that Daytona of the future. Again, I would love to have another work session with you, Mr. Fiacher, so that we could discuss real solutions to problems, and they are out there. My heart bled for these people who are all underwater, and in my opinion, it didn't need to happen. One of the things you need to realize in this world, okay, and there's an old saying that God created the world except for the Dutch. They built their own dikes. Who better to understand the problems of low-level communities than Holland? And what I want to propose to you is that we adopt a sister city in the Netherlands because they know how to do flood control. A third of Holland lives below sea level, and they don't have flooding problems. They have used technology, and they have used their resources to prevent that from happening. Now, I realize that, the obvious answer is let's pour 20 feet of filled dirt on all of Daytona and build all the houses on top of that. And we all know they can't do that. And so what Holland did is they created it's totally mechanized now, an automated dike system. So why reinvent the wheel? Let's learn from the people that have already done it. Let's get a sister city. Let's talk to them about our problems and what their solutions might be. I think we're past due on that. You mentioned the 5 EV stations. Yeah, that's tiptoes. We're going in the right direction. We got a long ways to go. But thank you for doing what you are doing in there. Let's take advantage of the money while it's available. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and was there a Sunil Kumar? He might have left because he wanted to speak on the hookah. Yeah. Okay, so then our next speaker is Marjorie Johnson, and on deck is Jenny Nazak.
Marjorie Johnson, 122 South Peachtree Street. I'm here tonight. I heard you all talking about affordable housing, and I looked at the housing you were supposed to put up there in front of Payne's place, and they never put it up there. They went in the paper and took pictures. Paula Reed stood in front of the place, and now you don't hear anything else about that housing up there. Nobody has explained to me what happened to this affordable housing. And Derek went up and met the people up there, Mayor Derek Henry up at the Bethune-Cookman University. And where's our affordable housing? We don't get answers to our questions. And then I used to meet with certain city officials to try to find out what's going on. And I did meet with my Commissioner Ken Strickland and my city manager, Derek, and they explained to me about the flooding. And guess who came to my house today? Libby Coleman. She is out of her house. It was completely flooded. She had nowhere to go. She wanted to come to the commission meeting, but she's living somewhere far away out of town. And so she had just moved over there. And that big lake is behind her house, and they should have drained it. And when I met the city manager and Commissioner Ken Strickland, we talked about the flooding. And he explained to me the situation of that flooding. But it is a serious problem, and it needs to be resolved. And this has been going on for years and years. And those people, Creamy Hayes and his wife and Miss Slater, they've been over there for years. This is all these years of flooding. And I live right behind the crab stop, and my house is right there in the flooding zone, but my lights did come back on. So this is a serious problem. So what we need to do is find out what kind of solution can we come up with to resolve this problem. Because the people lost all of their furniture, and they have mold in their house. And I think it's good that you have this money. And I think the people should be able to get some of this money to try to restore some of their facility, because I really felt sorry for Libby when she came to my house today. She was so sad. She had nothing. She wanted to come to the meeting, but she had been here before to explain to you people what was going on with her flooding problem. So I'd like to say to you tonight, either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problems. You need to come up with a solution to address this flooding problem so that we won't have these issues in the future. I know a lot of you are running for office. I was out there today campaigning for my friend Danny Fiescher. We were trying to get him in. We had all the Clifton students to come up there, and they're going to vote for him. So I say to you tonight, let's work together and try to get this problem resolved. My neighborhood was in a mess. There's a lot of trash in front of the man's house next door. Who's going to pick up that garbage? Do you know? It needs to be picked up. I live at 122 South Key Street, and it's been there ever since the flood. What's happened with yard trash? You need to pick it up. It's been out there 5 weeks already.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please pick that up. It's very necessary. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Hi, everybody. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. I like Rick Brown's idea about looking into what people in Holland do. How do they do it? Partnering with the city. Also, South Louisiana. If you've ever traveled around South Louisiana, it's really hard to tell where the land ends and the water begins. And a lot of the houses are up on stilts or just floating on boats. And then in some other cities, they just don't build in the super low part of town. And it could just be that so much of our housing just needs to be moved to higher ground. In Mexico City, the ancient Mexicans developed in the low part of their city a bunch of floating islands where they grow food, and it's accessed by canoe. And it still exists today. It's been in existence for thousands of years. It exists today, and it's a tourist attraction. So that's something. What else? Oh, our city's so beautiful. We're such beautiful and handsome people, and I always love to see what everybody's wearing. But Commissioner Henry, tonight you win with that. So that is really something. And I am so sad that I missed the Halloween trunk or treat. I was trying to be loyal to my neighborhood and hold it down. We didn't get a single trick or treater. I have to move into the 21st century and recognize that trunk or treat is kind of like the wave of things, you know. So I'm sad that I missed that. It was very sad. And well, I was giving away. By the way, speaking of sustainable Florida agriculture, which we weren't, but I am. I was giving away fresh Florida macadamia nuts still in the shell. The shells are super hard to crack. They are super hard to crack. You use a hammer and a vice grip. And also, if you freeze them, they will crack easier. I found that out. So freeze them, then crack the shell, then you have to wait a few minutes for the nut itself to thaw out. That is the secret. All right, got it. But yeah, I should have just brought a bunch of nuts and candies and things next year, I hope. Thank you for this fabulous 5K. That was so much fun. I wasn't even going to be in running type locomotion. I was just going to walk very casually the whole way, but I got motivated to start running. And I have been a barefoot runner, walker, ever since I moved to Florida in 2010 and moved to the beach side. I was like, why do I need shoes? I actually don't. It's actually kind of a worldwide movement. It's kind of popular to run barefoot in some circles. Preferably circles without glass on the road. And thank you to the street, whoever swept the streets so clean. Like there was not a single shard of glass on that 5K that if there was, I would have found it. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Sharon Hawkins.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. One, we need some pickup on the beach side, especially A1A. It's our tourist area. It's been almost a month. There's some condos with huge trash sitting out front. My neighborhood, of course, has not been picked up as well, but especially A1A. It really is our tourist center. It's our engine. It's our moneymaker, so we really have to look after it. Secondly, talk to the council representative from our area with regard to the reefs. When I was on the kitchen cabinet for Glen Ritchie, some guys from Cocoa came up. They wanted putting reefs off the coast for surfing. But one of the side effects is that it protects the upland for hurricanes. It stops the waves, and all the damage that had accrued might not have accrued. So she's very interested in looking at that. I got her name from Miami. The University of Miami has a wave action device that would determine exactly what would happen if anything were put there. So it's a $20,000. To me, it's cheap if it prevented all the stuff that we went through. And with that, why do we have breakaway stairs on the boardwalk? So every time we have a storm, they get damaged. So we have to repair them. That doesn't make sense. We had the cement stairs there for 70 years. They were not a problem. And now we constantly have to replace the wooden ones. Now we're replacing the metal ones as well. Drainage. I think the price tag was $3 million for a study for the Corps of Engineers. We've got the least able to afford replacing their homes have to replace them every 5 years. So the storms come in, they get flooded. When I worked at the liquor store on Orange Avenue, Keith Street got flooded. They lost, every time a car would go down, the water would go back into their homes. So they're losing each flood their most valuable possession, their homes. And they cannot afford to keep rebuilding and replenishing. They keep going backwards. Sporting events. I talked to Keith. There's an area at Bethune Point for a volleyball location. The Skateboard park could be doubled in size to host tournaments. We have the facilities to host tournaments. I'm glad the city manager went there. I'm thinking that we could have a football tournament every year. That
Our next speaker is Sharon Hawkins, and on deck is Destiny Williams.
Hello. I want to take my time and read this right. My name is Sharon. I have commercial property and residential property in Daytona Beach. I'm here tonight to talk about zoning on MLK and MMB. As a child growing up in Daytona Beach, we know what MLK and MBB looked like. It was a lot of business. We had somewhere to go. Right now, the way things look, that's not it. So what I'm here is I'm kind of upset how the city officials have come into the redevelopment area, I'm going to say the Black community, and has changed zonings that would really destroy the business area. I'm not sure who's responsible. I'm not sure who's making these decisions about changing these zonings, but it is really making it hard for business owners in our area. I feel like it's discrimination against community, discrimination against people, and it has a very discrimination economical growth in our areas. I purchased a building in 2020 at 840 Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. I'm not sure whose zone that is, but I was just informed by the city. I'm going to say Miss Melissa in permanence, license and permanent permits, that I could do nothing with my business but maintain it. She told me I could not improve it or do anything. If you're not familiar with 840, it used to be a gas station back in the day. And then it changed. It's a car wash, restaurant up downstairs, and apartments upstairs. Well, I was told by this in permits and license that I could put a carport because it's hot. I have workers. I have elderly people that come get the car wash. We just do a lot of things. And 6 months later, I got a notice from my contractor, from Miss Melissa downstairs, that we couldn't have that. And what my thing is, if we can have shade covering at the Daisy Stocking Park, we should be able to have it at the business. I'm not sure what's going on, but these changes, whoever's making these changes, they have no connection to the people or the community. These decisions to change these zones, it's just messing up business. We should be able to have our business in our community. I would like to be in my community. I don't want to have to go on the B side. I want to have my stores and my business here. So I'm asking whoever zone this is, please work with me so we can improve this area. I'm making good improvements on these businesses. If you pass by any property that I have, I make it better for the community. And telling me no, Mr. Fietch, I remember you say we're going to get to a yes. They're not doing that. They're straight out saying no. And I need some help on this to make sure I can get my car wash back, my restaurant, and everything. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Destiny Williams, and on deck is Renee Richardson.
Good evening, commissioners, mayor, everyone. Destiny Williams, 809 Cottle Circle. I wanted to speak to the flooding. This was, I'll say we've been here 4 years, me and my 2 young children. This is the first time that we've experienced the flooding. Did not know it would be to this magnitude. The people in my neighborhood said, oh, we might not get it. So I was going based on that. You all joke about PTSD from the flooding. It's a real thing. My children are afraid when it looks cloudy. They're like, Mom, is our house gonna get flooded again? I don't have the answers to that. All I have to say is, right now we're safe. Thankfully, we have family in the city to where we can be displaced, because we are displaced. But I remember last year being here talking about the flooding. We get a little bit of rain, Lockhart is flooded. It's been that way for years from what I'm told. I know maybe a few of you have been raised here, so you know about the flooding in the area. It's not sure why it hasn't been made a priority. At the meeting that we had, I think last week, a lot of the members of the community were saying that the pumps don't work for those retention ponds and that they weren't working during the flood. If they're based on electricity, if there could be some type of solar backup or battery backup so that those pumps can still work, so we won't have sewage in our houses. Let's see. I know you mentioned, Mayor, that one of your resolutions was to pay the water bills for the citizens. I still think that that is, along with the money that you all are going to give, I think that paying the water bills would still be helpful. A lot of us, at least on Cottle Circle, I can speak to my people, we are not able to live in our homes. So we're paying bills that we're not even utilizing. So that would be a great help to the people. The Santa Run, I know they said it's a lot or whatever for Zone 6. Your zone needs it. You have a lot of kids in that neighborhood, in that zone, and we have nothing. When I say nothing, I evacuated with my children and my 2 dogs, which are like children, the things that we could grab. Important papers, things on our backs. That's all that we have. We have literally nothing. So if you would consider doing something for the children in your zone, that would be, I'm sure, greatly appreciated to those people. And I don't know if y'all can work with any community or doctors or physicians or whatever, because again, joking about the PTSD of the flood is not funny. And if there's some type of counseling that can go to the communities to speak with the people, that might be helpful if they don't have insurance or anything like that. But thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Renee Richardson, and on deck is William Biddle.
So, Renee Richardson, and I'm coming as a resident, 931 South Martin Luther King. We flooded as well. My house got flooded, not as bad as a lot of other people. I am also an employee of the Department of Children and Families, and I have been at the disaster site from day one when it opened. I just left there and came here because I wanted you guys to know what I saw and the things that I saw at the disaster site. We have families, children, elderly, handicapped, disabled, that are homeless. I've never seen so many people that are homeless. It is astronomical, and FEMA cannot help all of these people. People are coming in asking us, where is the temporary housing? I asked FEMA, where is it? They said it had to be requested by the state, paid for by the state because it's very expensive. There are no temporary housing, nothing. These people are homeless, and it's sad. We have people that have never even imagined being homeless. They cannot get in their homes. They have nothing. I've seen so many, literally the whole house flooded and everybody's stuff on the curb. People. And all we were able to do at the site, and that is one of the things I want to say, that we need to be able to do more at these disaster sites, because handing somebody a piece of paper with a highlighted date, telling them to come back at this time, that's not what we should be about. We should be about feeding people. It should have been water, juices, something there. It was nothing there. FEMA didn't have anything. And I've been there the whole entire time. There was not feeding or providing hot meals for anybody. They were very frustrated. I don't know the logistics of everything that has to happen for things to move forward, but we have to do something different. I know it should be something that it should be a fund somewhere that when this happens, because hurricanes happen all the time, when this happens to this magnitude, we have to be able to act right then, not 3 weeks later, not a month later, not this time. It has been bad. And I just wanted you guys to know how devastating, and a lot of families, a lot of children, a lot of disabled people. I mean, New Smyrna Edgewater, Port Orange, Ormond, you name it, it was there. It was there, and it's there every day. And now we're going out to the community to DSNAP. And I was in St. John's, I'm finna be in, Hillsborough, I'm finna be everywhere else. But we need to do something locally. We need to do something, have a fund for that. Something that gives instant access, water, cleaning products, food, hot meals, something. Because people were very devastated and they were very upset because all we could do was highlight a piece of paper and say, come back this day or show up here. People are looking for something when they come into FEMA, that they're looking for something and they didn't get anything except for sitting in long lines, waiting a long time. It was no waters, it was no juices, it was no snacks, it was no food, it was no anything. And that was very distressful for me. And I said I was going to make it a point to come and at least speak for the community, because we lost a lot of houses, a lot of shelter, and it's no temporary housing. They had those temporary housing at the Speedway. I saw them. I asked them. They said those were for the people that restored the lights. We appreciate them, but we need something for the community. What are these people supposed to do? And I'm just so frustrated with that because you could not imagine. We had so many elderly people that have never been homeless at all. And they were just in tears. We hugged, we cried, we could do what we could, but we need to do something else as a community and as leadership. We need to do something that's a little bit more than what has previously been done. And that's what I wanted to get across. I know the flooding is an issue. That's something we're going to have to work on. But I want us to be able to, when FEMA comes and they set up a site, we need to be there in person as well as city recommendation, staff, anything, helping to feed, helping to provide, helping to ask questions, the hard questions. Because I don't know what to do. I don't know. I just hug them. I just cry with them. And that's sometimes what they need. And we just need to go the extra mile for our community and stuff. So I just want you guys to know you're doing a great job. We just need to do a little more when it's part for a hurricane or a disaster like this and stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question. When they leave,
Have anywhere to go. They're trying to stay with family members, but it's a lot of people that don't have anywhere to go. They were at Ocean Center, but even when the Ocean Center closed, they were just everywhere. So we haven't been even able to find, we've been calling shelters, we've been calling places, but everywhere is full.
Okay.
Everywhere. So we don't have any place, and temporary housing would have been perfect for people to be able to have somewhere to go. Thank you.
My name is William Bidorf. I'm a resident here. I live at 402 East International Speedway Boulevard. I have a lot of history. I'm not perfect. I had a strip club at one time, and I helped people get off opiates. I became a born-again Christian because of Steve Miller. And really today, I'm here to stand up for him. And on 10/24/22, there was a police report number. It's 2200181999. On that, my question is, it says, it got brought up by, I guess these races get kind of crazy. And it was said that in the police report that he did not verbally or physically threaten Juanita May. But in the news report article from the Daytona Times, it says something much different. It says that she was in fear for her life. Now, a police report is a sworn statement. And it's just like for any of you sitting here and myself, it takes a lot for me to come in front and to stay up all night and to stand up for somebody, because I would stand up for you the same way if somebody talked about any one of you in this room. So that's why I'm here. I'm kind of disgusted and angry. Take care and have a very good night. And I appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Urban White, and on deck is Patricia Hurd.
Good afternoon, Irvin White, 340 Garden Street, Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm here today because I read an article in the newspaper, Daytona Time, last week with my name in it. And it was a lie on Mr. White. I try to live a decent city life around here as a citizen. I try to help my community. I try to do everything I could. But when I get up and read lies from a commissioner in the newspaper, I don't know who gave it the information to him, it just hurts. It hurts real bad. It hurt deep inside. The news people called me. I told them what happened. Nothing was printed in the paper about what was said or what I said that happened. And the commissioner, she haven't reached out and told me anything or called me and said, let's work something out. Nothing. But it's just a shame that a city commissioner or whoever gave the article to the newspaper tell folks lies on the citizen that everybody know in the community is well good peoples and do anything he could to help the people in the community. I don't appreciate it, and I still haven't got a call from this commissioner. Before I got to my girlfriend's house, the same night, she knowed about it. But she called her, my girlfriend, but didn't even respond to who she was relating to. It's wrong, and I'm looking for an apology. Y'all have a good evening.
Our next speaker is Patricia Hurd, and on deck is Ken Southall.
Wow, good evening. Patricia Hurd, 822 Vernon Street, Daytona Beach, Florida. Number one, pick up house waste in Midtown. That's where it was really flooded. I know there were other areas, especially Carter Circle and Lockhart area across from the Butts Park. All of this stuff is staying on the outside, which means that the neighborhood is beginning to smell and other things, okay? Many of you don't remember the Nova Road Canal. How many of you up here remember? Come on, Paula. Okay, it was from Port Orange to Nova Road, city manager. And you know I used to live on Walker Avenue too, Walker Street. There was the canal there. Now, I want you all to learn from those who have come before you. Go down George Ingram Boulevard to Nova Road. If I went there today, I believe, you notice it's sort of high on the north side of George Ingram. Now, I want you to think about this. From George Ingram all the way north, did it flood on Nova Road? How did those businesses get there? And what did they do that keeping them from flooding? I want you to think about it. That's all I'm saying. You know, ask them what did they use or what are they using. There's a pond over there, Buddy Young Park. There was a street closed down. Come on now, I want you to go back and look in your records, your books, and see what did they do to keep all of this from flooding. Now, yes, it's a big weekend, and I'm not looking forward to it, but I want to go back to the waste. Come on, let's pick up the waste on MLK, on my street down there, and other places. We don't want all of these odors out there. Do you? Do you? And you. Have a good night.
Our next speaker is Ken Southall, and on deck is Pierre Lewis.
Hello, my name is Ken Southall, and I built a few homes here in Daytona in the flood zone area. And I listened to Ms. Reed, and she's saying, was those 6 homes that you're referring to, were they built in that area?
They were built on North Carolina.
On North Carolina?
Carolina.
Well, we got a few built on Valencia and a few other places out there. And they are built a little higher, well, a foot or two higher than the average homes out there. And they did not get flooded out. My home was built in that area and built on the ground. I just happened to be on a little higher ground and they get flooded out. But the average home out there got flooded out. Like I say, I made a survey in 2009, and I brought that to your attention. Maybe not you all, but the council. And the News Journal wrote an article about that. Because I made a survey, and the average water that came into the house was at least 6, maybe 8 inches. Now, if we were to elevate that, and if you take a survey today and find out where did the water come at the height of those homes, and the average one is about the same. So if we would have changed the code and made it more sufficient to take care of the problem, we wouldn't really have the problem. Not as bad. So I'm saying that do we really care about our people? Are we sitting on this board and don't know anything about how to solve a problem at all? I'm just asking. Because if I'm a layman and can see it, the 8 inches, and even on South Street and Hudson Street. I got a friend over there, he done been flooded out 3 times. And he right there on the corner of Hudson and South, right there where his apartment was built at. And the apartments is no higher than his place. And he get flooded out every time. And I don't understand it. And I'm only talking about 8 inches at the most. So how can you say, well, we care, looking at this inside, world most famous. Man, come on. Let's do something for the people. Let's stop telling them stories that sounds good, and every time it floods, rain, we have the same problem. We complain about the darn garbage. If we did something about the problem, we wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't have it. So if you care about us, show it. If you want us to love Daytona, give us a reason to love Daytona. Stop. Is my time up? I got 3 seconds. I know you're probably going to get saying the same thing over and over, but I'm living this over and over. Not just me, my people. Black, white, doesn't matter. And the average one of them left. They're not saying what they should say. And we have to stand together. If we don't do that, it's like when you play basketball. My son used to beat up on you all the time. I know that. But we played together. We argued, fight, but when it come down to it, we played together. So let's do this as a people, will you please? Let me see it before my lifetime. I done served, gave my time in service, and when I got out of service, I came back the same thing. And if I accept that and not fight for my rights, I'm going to be in the same situation. My kids will be doing the same thing, and I don't want that. I want them to have the same opportunity you had. You came a long ways. When I look at you, I'm proud of you. Right? So you got a responsibility. Take care of it. All right. That's all I got to say.
Our next speaker is Pierre Lewis.
Pierre Lewis, 130 South Franklin Street. Good evening to the mayor and to the commission. My first comment is thank you, because I know at a time like this, your jobs are not easy. I've done a lot of critical crisis stuff in my lifetime, so I know you're handling a lot. The first thing I'd like to do is thank Ms. Betty Goodman. She's not here, but I'll tell you why I'm thanking her, because I was in the Citizens Academy. When I was in that Citizens Academy a few years ago, I had the chance to talk to a lady named Shannon Ponitz. And she schooled me, so to speak, and talked to me a lot about, you're shaking your head, right? I asked her the question, I said, why is Midtown, in my particular area, why does it flood, Ms. Ponitz? What really goes on? And she spent a long time explaining to me about a lot of stuff. Now, I'm a solution guy, so I'm not saying I got all the solutions, but I'm saying listening to some of the comments that she made to me before, I wrote that down, I kept a lot of that stuff, and in addition, I noticed on the city's website, they've got where you can set up an appointment with one of the employees that's there. I saw that. So now I've set up an appointment to have another appointment with her. But my thing is as we had the meeting with the NAACP, I wrote down some of what I thought were some of my solutions, but these things, I see a lot of them have been mentioned before. However, there's one point that I haven't got mentioned, or at least Ms. Richardson touched on it, and I talked to Commissioner Reed about that. I called it DIRT, or we could call it MERT. When I said DIRT, it was Daytona Emergency Response Team. Or MERT was Midtown Emergency Response Team. What I'm saying is, just as we had that committee that talked about with the Orange Avenue, at some particular time, a later point in time, maybe we can, since we know this area is prone to what happens, a group of citizens, a group of professionals, at a particular time to say, these are the things that touches on how we can go about fixing this situation and definitely adapting to it once those areas get flooded. My aunt's 89 years old, lives on Cottle Circle. She's dialysis. Her house was next to Miss Desi, that's right there. And because of the flooding that was there, she thought she wasn't going to get to dialysis, at least my cousin did. Now, everybody knows my history as being a Marine. She said, we ain't got to worry about that because Pierre will be here. I knew I was going to have to swim through whatever I was going to have to do to get her, but the fact still stands, God helped it out because he made those waters rescind, so I didn't have to wade through that, but it was still there. And that's not the problem, but the point I still want to make is that when you're deliberating in these meetings, and if you decide that, you know what, there is some sort of proactive things, I'd be willing to work with people and whoever that group is and create that group that's called the Daytona Emergency Response Team that handles something in between FEMA, in between the fire department, in between that, where we have water, we have food, we have stuff that's sort of a quick response. We could even have a youth corps, so to speak, some teenagers, and train them in some of that early first responder stuff. Not to go over, like I said, what the fire departments do, but there's got to be a middle ground there. So that's my suggestions. And I thank you for your job. Thank you.
And our next speaker is Steve Miller. I ain't saying, though, because I'll say something there. Someone decides to.
Steve Miller, 383 Walnut Street. You know, I heard of a character by the name of Willie Horton. And Willie Horton, I guess he threatened some Caucasian women, and that's what they said anyhow. But there have been many of black men who've been lynched and killed because of allegations that they put people in fear or caused them heartache. I saw the police report on the 24th, and it states that Juanita May said Steve Miller did not verbally or physically threaten her. But I was amazed when I saw the Daytona Times when she felt that she was in fear, that Miller allegedly approached her with the yard sign in his hands, which she said put her in fear of personal safety. And I'm saying that the commissioner told a lie. And I hate to say this, but it was a damn lie. I never threatened her or put her in any type of harm. I didn't have a yard sign in my hands, and I didn't approach her. But it's amazing that she told the police that it wasn't anything, but she told the Daytona Times. What is the truth? What really is the truth? And my point of it is, I put somebody in fear. And by the way, the residence that she was referring to is Irvin White, and he was there, okay? So I'm really disappointed. And the next thing, on behalf of black women, I saw this ad just the other day that talked about she's fighting to stop black women from aborting their babies. My sister, my niece, my aunts, so they abort babies. And that she's fighting to stop the crossing of the borders of the Second Amendment. It seems like she's running for Congress and not city commissioner. But I just wanted to say that what was stated in the Daytona Times was not truthful. And if anybody was putting somebody in fear, they should be locked up. And lastly, she know my history of fighting with police officers. When a black man fight police officers, they get shot in the head. I have never been charged with fighting any police officers. So I just wanted to correct the record And I also want to say, I think this is the best commission we ever had. Mayor, I love you. Mr. City Manager, I think you are the best. But truth is truth, and a lie is a lie.
Mr. Miller, you and Mr. White will both have the opportunity to speak the truth with the prosecuting attorney. That's what will happen. I'm sitting here composing myself right now because the minute that I saw you walk in the room, everything in me wanted to crack. You have no idea what you did when you came across that street at me. You have no idea what you did. You have no idea what you did. Okay?
He spoke of his piece. Let's let that be. Okay. Move on with this.
That was our last speaker.
Thank heavens, that's the last speaker. We've seen some times here when it comes to campaigning and when it comes to election seasons. We've always seen some strange things. Let November 8 get here sooner. Good night.